Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we all doing? I hope that you are well. It's good to see you. I'm glad that you're here. Are you glad that you're here? I hope that you're glad that you're here. Listen, don't be scared. Everything's going to be okay. It's a bit of a crisis, but we're always in crisis. Humanity's always in crisis. You know what our superpower is? Our claws are crap. Our teeth are crap. Not amazingly strong. You can't jump very high comparative to other animals. We're super adaptable. Sometimes that trait, that strength can be used against us, so we can accept hypernormalization of things that should not be normalized. But more often than not, what it's led to is an ability to adapt to highly stressful, highly dangerous, low resource environments and to overcome. And we've done it very well so far. There's no reason to assume that we won't be able to do it into the future. When I did the video recently about civilization collapsing, I'm trying to induce panic in anybody. Civilizations collapse, things change. What would you do if you knew, if instead of preparing for civilizational collapse, you were preparing for big changes that nobody could predict the scale or the complexity of? What would you do? What would be some sensible things to do under those circumstances? The things that make you panic straight away, like you say, well, I've got kids. Like, okay, so you care about your kids. Yeah. So if you didn't think that civilization was collapsing, what are you doing that reflects a care in your children's future? What was so great about the world before that you're really going to miss out on? What was great about your children being indoctrinated with a load of nonsense that we all know is not true, and even the children know is not true? You can't say to kids now, with the economy the way it is, oh, go to school and learn the crap that they want you to learn, that you don't need to learn, that's actually not going to help you make money. It's not going to help you be a good human being or be a happy human being. It's not designed to help you be a proper citizen and a contributing citizen. It's a kind of a mishmash and a load of historical baggage that we just can't seem to get rid of. So what would you miss about that? If the school system isn't there, what are you going to miss about that? If you care about your kids, what are you putting into their brains and into their hearts and into their bodies right now that's going to sustain them and make them strong and live happy, fulfilling lives? And what's the difference between what went before and what's coming now? What's the difference? What was so great about before? People say to me, oh, I'm scared I'm going to lose my freedoms. Yeah. What the fuck have you been doing with your freedom before all this happened? Wasting the days away, dreaming, lost in consumerism, pointlessness, entertainment, just passing time. It's not like you were doing anything particularly fucking amazing before, my mate. Don't get all funny about it now. They might take my life. What were you doing with your life anyway? We're not bobbing along in a sea of circumstance like jellyfish, completely helpless. We never were. We aren't now, and we won't be in the future. We have way more agency and way more independence and way more power than any of us seem comfortable admitting. And that's always been true. The problem is, so I tell you what the real problem is. The real problem is not that you don't have power, but that you give it away. Not that you're powerless in this situation. You're not. At all. You never were. You never were. People pulled your strings maybe, pushed your buttons a little bit, got you good and scared, got you into a different emotional state. But there was never any threat. This isn't, Germany in the late 30s. There's not men in black coats with skulls on their caps going door to door and dragging people into trucks. So, what's the panic? What's there to panic? If you care about liberty, and you care about living a good life, and you care about your kids living a good life, then what are you doing to make sure that these things are maintained? They're not just going to happen spontaneously. Liberty doesn't happen spontaneously. The world doesn't drift towards liberty spontaneously. It's quite the opposite. If it's left and people act like jellyfish, even though they're not jellyfish in a sea of circumstance, if they act like the jellyfish in a sea of circumstance and that life is happening to them, it amounts to the same thing. We have the same end result. Liberty has to be fought for. Nothing's changed. Who do you think is sitting at home watching Netflix, getting fat on the couch, ordering Uber Eats? Oh, I was given liberty and I'll always have liberty. No, you won't. Oh, is it the Illuminati trying to take it away? Maybe. But it doesn't need to be. I just think if you just have drift, tidal drift, if you have a nation of consumers and you have really big government, the government is a monster. And I don't mean this in some weird way. It's like a corporation. What's a corporation? You get small businesses that come together, they merge, they acquire each other, and they become bigger. They become stronger. They become like a Frankenstein's monster. A bit of this company, a bit of this company, some of the people from that company, some of them people get rid of, bring them together, and then you have more. And it's stronger, and it has more territory, and it has more power. It's like a Frankenstein's monster. And then you give it steroids, and it grows even bigger. Then you accumulate more things, and it grows even bigger again. It's mindless. There's no it doing it. Much like a virus. It's a floating piece of genetic code. It's got no intent. It's got no intentionality to it whatsoever. It's mindless. It's free of volition. Same with corporations. Same with companies. They're almost like it's a similar thing. Floating pieces of code. Not even software properly, just bits of code. And they will move in a direction in a given environment. Of course they will. Government's the same. It's a big corpus. It's a big body. And as an entity, if we are capable intellectually of imagining it as an entity, it's not going to choose to shrink. It's not going to be like, oh, I'll make myself smaller now. Why would it do that? So you have to push back against it. Not because there's an evil conspiracy. There are like conspiracy literally translates as con, which means with, spire, breathe. So it's breathe together. It implies malice. It has the implication of malice. So it's people breathing together and acting together with one intent that has malice. I don't think you need to think that there's any particular conspiracy. The boys and girls who are in charge will protect their jobs because they're humans and they'll try and stay in charge. They're in that position of power because they believe in it. They believe in the institution that's there. And these institutions grow and they grow too big. That's all. It's not big. We don't have to make it some weird, hysterical thing. There are conspiracies. There is naughtiness going on. But I think, generally speaking, it's just tidal drift. We're too lazy to govern ourselves in the psychological and philosophical and literal sense. So we're like, oh, do it for me, do it for me, do it for me. And the more you get used to just handing over responsibility, the more you condition yourself to do it, because whatever you do a lot of, you get good at. And you just give it away. You don't have to. You don't have to. So don't get panicky now. So it's the apocalypse. It's always the apocalypse. It's every moment that we're alive and conscious is the apocalypse. Apocalypse just means the unveiling. It's the curtain is being infinitely drawn back. The next moment is the revealing, is the revelation. Is the next moment, and the next moment, and is the next moment. And yes, it's full of signs and seals and strange beasts and mystical creatures and omens and everything that you see in the book of Revelation, according to John. All of that stuff. Sure, he was probably on mushrooms. Of course he was. But it's an unfolding of reality. It's always like that. I don't think there's anything to be particularly panicked about right now, take it easy. But prepare. Prepare. You should prepare. Lose that weight. Try and sort your finances out. Try and sort your household out. Try and get things organised. Just have a little bit of a think. If I needed to get out of where I am right now and go to another location quickly, could I get my family in the car inside of under an hour and get them there? What would I miss? What do I not have in the car that I probably should have in the car? Is the first aid kit up to date? Is the torch up to date? And I'm not trying to scare you. I'm like, that's just life. Like, you should be like that all the time. You never know. Natural disasters occur. Power failures occur. Supply chain shortages occur. Military takeovers occur. War happens. Plagues happen. Just be ready. Be confident. Prepare yourself. But don't be afraid. Don't sit at home quaking in your fucking boots. You're doing your body, your mind, your soul no good whatsoever doing that. Make yourself sick. And you'll do anything to make that feeling stop. And you'll give your power away to make that feeling stop. And if you're going to give your power away to anybody, give it to me. Look, 10 years under my benevolent dictatorship. I'm only asking you for 10 years, folks. You just got to give me, well, everything, pretty much. And it'll be all right. Isn't it worth it for my utopian vision? Just 10 years, I'll have it all sorted. Don't you want that? Do you think I'm growing this moustache for no reason? I've been doing it for years. I'm trying to implant thoughts here. Big brother, the muzzy, just 10 years, brothers and sisters. Utopia's just over there. You just got to sacrifice a little bit. Just give it to me. I know what to do with it. Everybody else doesn't. Everybody else is confused. Everybody else is a charlatan and a shell. But I am the true, the real, Just give me all the power and everything will be okay. I was asked in the community section, am I shadow banned, by the way? Why am I posting stuff on YouTube in the community section and nobody sees it? 6 months ago, if I post a thing that says, we're doing a live tonight, has anybody got any questions? I'd have 60 questions in the first 3 hours. Do you want to know how many I've got now? 3. Is shadow banning real? Am I shadow banned? What did I do, YouTube? Oh, medical misinformation. Yeah, that's right. 2 strikes for medical misinformation. What did they say that was medical? What does that mean, medical misinformation? What does that mean? Contrary opinion? What is medical misinformation? Is it if you stick penicillin up your bum, you get high for 30 minutes? That's probably medical misinformation, isn't it? And what's the rule? Is it that anybody who's wrong ever about anything to do with medicine? Because it changes, medicine changes, science changes. It's not static. It's not like the Bible. It's not like the commandments. It's not ordained by God. That's not science. That's dogma. That's the dogmatic end of religion. Science asks many more questions than it answers. And when it answers those questions, as any of you who have been forced to read scientific papers will know, if you go to the conclusion section, the answers are made very tentatively. You can go now to Google Scholar and you could put in whatever search terms you like if you're into narcissism or CPTSD, and you'll see an abstract, and you'll see an introduction, and you'll see a methodology, and you'll read a conclusion. These are peer-reviewed pieces of research that have been published. And then you just scroll down to the conclusion of one of these. They're not like arrogantly asserting, or we absolutely know now with no doubt whatsoever. It's all very tentative. The data seems to suggest, but there's some things we could have done better. These are the things we could have done better. Here are our suggestions for future experimentation in this field. That's standard methodology for scientific papers, by the way. Just shows there's no orthodoxy in science. That's not science. I don't know what the fuck that is. It's not science. What am I talking about? I don't know. You're supposed to be making people feel better. Oh yeah, medical misinformation. 2 strikes on this channel for medical misinformation. And you know what I'm starting to wonder? what medical misinformation might be. I'm starting to wonder if the term medical misinformation is code for failed to toe the party line, failed to stick to the narrative. And they're just calling it medical misinformation. But what they mean is, you have been a very naughty little sausage and you will now be punished. I was asked how the 30-day challenge went. The 30-day challenge ended today. Visceral Gravitas asked, how did the 30-day challenge go? I have to say that in the last 4-5 days of the challenge, as I was reading people's posts, I found it quite moving to see people make small but real progress in their own lives in overcoming codependency. A display of consistency, discipline, moving forward despite the fact that it was painful and uncomfortable, and making real changes. And you can see people start to have faith in themselves again. And I thought to myself, maybe this is a key component of overcoming codependency, is getting people to the point where they can have faith in themselves again. I think we've lost faith in ourselves. I think we've lost faith in ourselves. We've lost faith in our strength. We've lost faith in our ability to cope with adversity. And that's a terrible shame. And that forces you into a state of codependence. Because being codependent is a little bit like being an abandoned baby between the ages of 0 and 5. You're an abandoned, sad baby. You can't help yourself. So you have to attach to somebody else to help you for you. This is my sort of definition of codependence. Eco-codependency, I'm calling it. Yes, the book is now done, and it will be out imminently. We're moving to, like, how dare you, headshots and the last few things that you need to do for a book of blurbs and all that. Shut up. It's actually, that laptop is closed. It's been switched off and then it just switches itself back on. It's got oppositional defiant disorder, and I'm going to take it to get some Adderall and Ritalin injected right into it this week. I think everybody in our culture is struggling on a spectrum of codependency. If you say that codependency is not the opposite of interdependency, which is healthy, or counterdependency, which is not, but anything that moves the person away from independence and sovereignty, where they're no longer relying on themselves to get things done, they have to outsource their agency to somebody else in order to get things done. Which is a very different view that most people have of codependence. They're like, no, they're simply the innocent victims of narcissists. And I'm like, nah, I think that they're the mirror image opposite of a narcissist. They're the yin to the narcissist's yang, where narcissists are locked into yang and transmission, no ego, boundaries, and a really toxic outer critic. The codependent is locked into yin, passivity. They're stuck in reception mode, and they only have a highly active inner critic. So we're not that dissimilar in the mechanics, the infrastructure, the architecture. It's the action and the results that come out of it that are different. But in this culture now, I think consumer capitalism, which is extremely yang, which means it's very manipulative, it's constantly provoking you, it's constantly guiding you, gaslighting you, manipulating you, provoking your emotions to get you to buy things not that you need but that you want, which is the definition of consumer capitalism. It literally has to do that to be consumer capitalism. It's forced us into a state of codependency that we didn't consent to. It breaks our boundaries. The implication of marketing, advertising, the messages you get from TV, from films, from mainstream media is you need something to be whole. You're not okay. You're not okay. The people around you are not okay. You all need the thing. The thing. Salvation is, in this bottle, with this guru, on this course, with this next iPhone, with these trainers, whatever it is. You need that because you're a piece of shit, and you know you are. You're worthless. So you need this. So pay us, and we'll sell you this toxic, unfulfilling, abusive, humiliating dream over and over again. And slowly your soul will erode away with every concession and every kneeling and every submission and every bow. Stop bowing. Stop kneeling. Stop submitting. Just don't. You're an adult. Nobody has the right to tell you to kneel. Nobody has the fucking right to tell you to kneel or to submit. Nobody has the right to tell you off the back of nothing, an uninvited opinion like, you're ugly, you're not very good, you're stupid, the various permutations of conveying to another human being you're worthless. Don't submit. Just don't submit to it. Just say fuck off. Every time it comes into your range, any person, any message, any piece of script or ideology that suggests that, your automatic response should be, get to fuck. You melt. Get the fuck away from me with this poison. Nobody has the right. There's no gods on this earth, or none that I've seen. Maybe you have. I haven't seen them. We're all just people. We're all just people. Nobody has the right to make these suggestions to you or to your family or to your kids. It's appalling what we let people get away with. It's disgusting what we've allowed to become hyper-normalized. There's nothing wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with you. Well, I feel anxious. Yeah, because you sit at home every day watching the TV for 7 hours with a sweaty arse crack, doing nothing, and your unconscious is saying to you, I'm really bored. And by the way, we're wasting the precious gift of life here. Get out of the house. Get off the fucking internet. Stop watching fucking TV. It's shite. It's all shite. You're not evolved to sit there like this. Whilst you observe other people that box and the evil masters behind it are telling you are more important than you, prettier than you, more special than you, cleverer than you, they have better skin than you, better hair, whatever the fuck. It's all shite. You're also not evolved to sit there like this. The dog is too poopy. Fucking know how stupid you look when you do that. It's gone. When it's gone, it's gone. It's gone. Time. Nobody can buy time. Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, who's the other fella? The one with the tusks, Elon Musk's. Can't buy time. When it's gone, it's gone. It's your most precious resource. I really care about my kids and I'm worried. Well, get off your fucking phone then and spend some time with them. I love my kids. Well, don't let them sit there being hypnotised by TV for fucking 4 or 5 hours at a time then. What is this? What are we doing? You don't have to allow it. You don't have to allow any of it. You just drop out. You just say, I'm not doing that. But we're all doing it. Well, fuck you all then. Weirdos. Come on then. Go and do the stupid thing together that makes no sense. And I'll sit here and not do it. And you can outcast me or judge me or whatever. I don't give a fuck. I'm not even alive that long. I'm alive for about 80 years, 85 years. Who gives a fuck? Oh no, you missed out on that social group. That social group of fucking liars and slaves who secretly hate each other. And what did I miss out on? Oh, we had some great nights out. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You all just sat there playing fucking dominance hierarchy games, posturing and talking shite, and drinking too much and eating too much. And now you all look like shit. Listen, do whatever you want. You're an adult. Do whatever you want. And though it harm no other, have respect for life. Have respect for other people. Have respect for existence. The fact that we're here. It's amazing. It's amazing. This world is an amazing place. Everything is here. This is the Garden of Eden. This is God's gift. This is everything. We have to fuck it up with our nonsense, divisions, boundaries, who's got the biggest PP, all this shit. It's all human made. Where's the badness right now in the world? Where's the badness that didn't come from humans? Where is it? Show me. It's us. It's us. Why? Shadow possession. Shadow possessions. It's not this. Why are humans like this? Why? Like it's some big fucking mystery. Because people act like arseholes. The end. Full stop. Why is it like this? Because people like to act like fucking arseholes. The end. Full stop. What's the secret then? Stop acting like arseholes. You don't be an arsehole. I won't be an arsehole. When we see other people being arseholes, we'll go, listen, you're going to have to stop that because that's not how we act. It's childishness. Shadow possession is not some weird, otherworldly Lord of the Rings, I don't know, Lord Sauron spell. It just means they're being childish. Or we're being childish. We just sink into childishness. I don't like that I'm angry and jealous. It doesn't fit. It just doesn't make me feel good to think that about myself. So I'm just not going to think it. But you are angry and you are jealous. Yeah, but I don't see myself that way. Oh, okay. What are you going to do with the fact that you're angry and jealous? I'm just going to suppress it. Oh, you're going to say, oh yeah, you're just going to ignore it. You're just going to ignore that you have these emotions. Oh, sound, yeah. No, I can't see that going wrong at all. It's immaturity. When all this kicked off, I said, we've got to grow up. Humanity's adolescence is over. We could probably do what we're doing now for another couple of 100 years. I reckon we could do, but the population size would probably change. Probably do another 1,000. And it wouldn't really change things in the big scheme of things, depending on what perspective you're looking from. But why vacillate and go into a repetition complex over the same problem for another 1,000 years? Imagine all the people who'll be born. Imagine all the kids who'll be born to suffer needlessly in this bizarre world, this fucking ugly, needlessly hostile, needlessly aggressive world. None of this is necessary. All of the ugliness, all of the hostility, none of it's necessary. It's like we took some sort of nightmare pill and we're like, right, it's boss here. How do we fuck this up and make everybody fucking miserable? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? If you go outside and walk, it's very nice. Green. The green colour of grass, your brain has evolved to find that particular shade of green very, very pleasurable and relaxing. Science. The specific frequency of bird song we're evolved to find that enormously pleasurable. Go and listen to the sound of the waves hitting the shore and just give yourself the space to go, wow, who made this? Did Coca-Cola make this? No. Did Johnson & Johnson make this? No. Why didn't they make this? Because they fucking can't. All the people who are telling you that you're worthless, you're sick, you're weak, you need this, you need that, just let daddy put it in you for a minute. They haven't got a fucking clue what they're doing. They are incompetent, childish, idiots. Yes, even the really clever ones. Even the really clever ones are walking around with a crusty bum and odd socks on and loads of belly button fluff. Because they haven't got their shit together. Believe me. Don't submit. Don't submit. The world's a beautiful place. People are great. All we need is what we've already got. It's not perfect. We've got each other. Go for a little dance. We make music. Humans like music, you know. If you don't have instruments, they'll make music with their mouths. or they'll like clap and stuff. And you have a bit of a dance, and then you tell a joke, and somebody else tells a story, and then you look at the stars and you go, wow, isn't being alive a mystery? And you'll go, yeah, it is a mystery, isn't it? Why are we conscious? I don't know. It's like the Anunnaki just mutated us with some chimps and then left us here. I know, lads, I'm into that Anunnaki thing, you know what I'm saying, kid? And that's it. When you're just, fuck, which is really nice. God, it's nice. It's nice. And then you go to sleep. Oh, isn't that the best? Isn't it fucking great? You go dance, amazing, just laugh. You tell jokes, funny, ha ha ha, laugh. Stories, wow. Look at the stars, mystical experience. Have sex, fantastic. Thank you, God. It's nice that, like that. Go to sleep, fantastic. A small death, just 8 hours of death. You're just free. All the ego boundaries dissipate. No responsibilities, nothing, just pure dreaming and fancy like that. And you wake up, that's nice too. If you're not in pain or anything, it's pleasant and the sun's out and the birds are singing. Oh, that's great, that. And then you get to eat food, and that's nice too. And you take a walk, you go and do something, meet up with your mates again. It's great. It's great. Fantastic. What a great world. Thanks, God. Don't need all this stuff. Really don't. I know it puts people off when I say consumer capitalism because they think I'm trying to make a political point, and I'm not. I'm not anti-capitalist. I'm definitely not anti-capitalist. What you've worked for is yours. You should be rewarded for your work. I should be rewarded for my work, and it should be fair. It should be just. But consumer capitalism is a sickness and a plague in the fucking land. That's the real pandemic, is consumer capitalism. Because it's inevitable. You know, you have to convince people to buy what they want, not what they need. And that is a truly perverse endeavor. It is for perverts. It is for deviants. It is for the morally degenerate and corrupt. Listen, I've had my say. You might not like it, and I can live with the fact that you don't like it if you don't. And if you did like it, that's great too. Shall I answer some questions now? You can put them in the comment box. You can make them one sentence long and end in a question mark. Please remember, I don't know you and I don't know your life, so be kind. And if you write me a question and I answer it the wrong way because I misunderstood it, don't get angry with me. It's not helpful. It's not personal. Nobody's here trying to hurt you. Before you hit send on the question, read it out loud to yourself and be like, if I didn't know my life and who I was, would I understand what the fuck is going on here? Because I'm not inside your head and I'm not psychic. There's a tarot reading before this. I got the Two of Wands. It's not yet time to take action, but it is time to plan. Jessica Wysocki, will you come to Connecticut and dance with me? I have to tell you, my friend, I don't think I can point to Connecticut on a map. It's by Omaha. Yes, of course. Question. Tanisha Lulu. Richard, it's me. How do I get rid of an overwhelming, underhanded feeling that I'm unworthy of being loved? The more I'm aware of my emotions, the more I feel it. I don't know that can be answered in this format, because I'd have to speak. You'd need to speak to like a qualified psychotherapist and have a dynamic conversation where that topic was explored, because I don't know what's causing the feelings of unworthiness. But that's what you need to deal with. Don't stick a band-aid on an open wound. So don't just go, oh no, I love myself. I really do love myself. Yeah, that could be useful further down the line. First of all, I want to be like, where's this coming from? Where's it coming? Why is that there? Why are you walking around that way? Typically, The way we love ourselves is the way that our parents loved us. We model our way for loving ourselves the way our parents modelled us. I'm not sure if there was a problem there or not. Often it is, might not be. So you'd have to speak to somebody about that. Liam Hutton, what would you say to a 20-year-old today just starting out in life? I'd say, listen, La, it's all very complex and it's all sinking into illusion. It's not like it was for me 23 years ago, being 20. Yeah, it's much harder for yous. No generation in human history that we know of has had access to so much technology and so much knowledge and has been so heavily propagandized as yous. That's where I'd start. I'd say, so take it easy. If you feel a bit weird or you feel a bit full of other people's ideas, it's not your fault. It's a weird time. You've grown up in a strange time. I'm demoralized by our culture. That's good. That shows that you have a moral conscience, because our culture is a culture of moral fucking degeneracy, horror, and corruption. So if you feel demoralized, that's a healthy response to a highly immoral culture that does rip out people's morality. It literally demoralizes you. I'm anxious about the future. We always were. We humans, we're always anxious about the future because nobody knows what the future holds. And to a degree, whatever other answer I give you, we have to learn to live with not knowing what the future is. And the only remedy for that is courage. You have to practice being courageous and just saying, you know what? Whatever happens, I'm going to deal with it. Whatever happens, I'll deal with it in the moment to moment in the future. And other than that, do what you can. Do what you can. Make your money. Prepare yourself as much as you think is sensible and reasonable. And don't get caught off guard. And I'm desperate to escape the matrix. Yeah, it's not hard, to escape the matrix. You do have to disconnect from where the matrix tentacles and electrodes are accessing you. So come off social media for a bit, avoid mainstream media for a bit, avoid the friends that are really plugged in, and hang out more with the friends who are really unplugged. If you think you have some friends who are unplugged but they're not talking about it, start talking to them more. And read Nietzsche. Read Nietzsche, who said, I do not drink from other people's cisterns because the cistern itself is corrupt. It's a big deal, this, like the overcoming shadow possession and individuation in this culture is a big deal because people are so beloved of their shadow possession. They love being narcissists. They love being psychopaths. They love acting like utter arseholes. Just switch your TV. Just scroll through Instagram. Tell me I'm lying. It's not that people suffer, I don't want to be an arsehole, but they love it. They're just so enjoying themselves. But you do have to move away from the culture that's moving in that direction. It's like a stream that's full of detritus and it's moving in this junk direction of moral degeneracy and hatred and materialism. It's very worldly. It's very much of this world, which is frightening. That will make you anxious because everything that's of this world is dying every moment. Like, we're all dying, we're all aging all the time, and we know it. That's our burden as the human animal. That's what makes us different to other animals. We are burdened with imagination and we are burdened with memory, and we know we're going to die. So if you're very heavily invested in this world and highly materialistic, you'll feel anxious. If you have a more spiritual perspective on life, you'll experience a lot of comfort from that, because you're just one of many, like me. We're just one of many. Many times been before, many times be here again. Over and over and over again, like a replicating virus that mutates over time. What are we doing? Not sure. We seem to be transferring information forward through time. That could be one of our functions. We might be nodes in a massive supercomputer, which is God's brain. And it's not that we're in a simulation. that we are the simulation itself. Wow, lads, that is fucking profound. Richard, what inspired you to reboot Street Fight Secrets? Makes me want to learn to box. I did some boxing today, kid. Ooh. Oh, I just hurt. And I got hit in the head, apparently. I just rubbed my thumb over a bit there. Got conked a few times, which is nice. Well, I have to get back to my roots. I have to get back to normal life. All of this is very cerebral. I like the subject. I like the academic elements of it sometimes, but my appetite for it is not limitless. So I have to go back to who I am. And I as I said in other YouTube videos, I've developed a codependent relationship with YouTube and a codependent relationship with this project. And I can't be teaching people to overcome codependency if I'm codependently serving them at the same time. It would be insane. Enjoyed Street Fight Secrets. I enjoyed doing that video. There's a new self-defense video that I shot in Dubai with my mate Mohammed Kader of Warrior Life. And I really enjoyed doing it. It felt good. You'll find it if you put, once we're finished here, into YouTube, Richard Grannon Martial Arts. You'll find it. It's just out 2 days ago. Good fun. Really good fun. D. Williams says, are you a city or a country boy? I saw you shooting skeet. Yeah, I like skeet shooting, yeah. Skeet. From the windows to the walls, till the sweat drips from my... I like the countryside very, very much. There are very few cities that I would say I like. Prague is a very, very special city. But I love the country. Right now, when I come back here and I stay here temporarily to the Wirral, I typically stay in Hoylake, and I have a place on the front at Hoylake that I can rent for a little bit, and it means I can wake up and look out the window and I just see nothing but the sea, the Irish Sea. It's fantastic. So I am a bit of a nature head. I'm happier there. I don't like the sound of traffic. I don't like the sound of building works. I don't like the sound of city people who've been possessed by all the city spirits. It's the jibber jabber, a load of nonsense. Questions? What is your opinion about the US going to war with Russia? I've had to think about this, I don't really see. If you look at the political chess pieces that are across the board globally right now, unless I've missed something, I don't see how it would be possible. I don't think you can have an open conflict. What do they call it? You can only have proxy wars. It's not. The world has changed a hell of a lot since World War II. We just can't. I don't think we can afford it. I don't think. I really don't think, in every sense of that, because we're too globalized. So, World War One is probably a better example. You had like nation states, and they went after each other, and it's fascinating the way it broke out, because we had all these contracts with different, let's call them businesses. Like the UK has a contract with France, who has a contract with this contract, and in World War One, it was really, really strange the way things broke down. But there was a sovereignty and an independence to these nations that we just don't have today. We just don't have it. So, I'm saying that, and you'd be like, well, what do you think is why is Putin building up troops on the borders of the Ukraine then? And I don't know. I really, really don't know, because he can't. He can't. He's just like, if he does that, he basically can't. Is my opinion. We'll wake up tomorrow and Russia will have invaded Ukraine, and I'll have egg on my face, but it would be absolutely disastrous. Absolutely disastrous. Putin's not stupid. He's many things, but he's not stupid, man. He's a very, very shrewd man. And unless he's either playing games, which is likely because he postures. He's like that. He's like that one in the prison yard who shoulder jams people to see how how they'll respond. So he could be doing that. But yeah, I don't think the US is going to go to war with Russia. Diddly diddly dee. Let's go to the newest comments. The world leaders are chums, just vying for the next contract. Exactly. But what would this particular piece of posturing be doing in terms of making money? I can't figure that out. What's one thing that you find missing in your life? A dog. But I have a gypsy life. I can't have a dog. Because of the codependency created around your channel project. I just gave too much to this project. I just really just over the edge gave too much to this project, and I think Sam Backman tried to tell me a few years ago, probably 3 years ago now. He said, "You've become a victim of your own success. You need to find new perspective." He was trying to get me to move to Africa and to just do other work or even do like volunteering work, and I wish I had. I really wish I had, because it would have broken the spell a lot quicker. But as it is, we are where we are. Amor fati, as Nietzsche would say. You've got to love your fate and assume that that's where you're supposed to be. Yeah, I have wasted a little bit of time there. What's the difference between codependence and cooperation? Oh, hey, Paige, come on, mate. You can look that up in a dictionary, can't you? I think it's such a, how should I put it? It's such an obvious question that I can only assume, based on the fact that you would ask this question, that you possibly don't really know what, because codependence and cooperation have nothing to do with each other. Interdependence and cooperation have something to do with each other, but maybe go and look up this in a psychology dictionary online or something, the meaning of codependence, and don't conflate it with interdependence. I know it's which you could do if you just look at the word and you go co-dependent. That's the same as interdependent. It isn't. Codependence is a subclinical term used to describe a particular set of attributes. It's not one of those attributes which relates to cooperation. Would be, you could argue that because being highly agreeable is related to cooperation, but it's like saying, explain the difference between pears and a tank or something. So I'd have a little look into that page and look that up. Pia Melody is good. Pia, P-I-A, Melody, and she has some good videos on YouTube on codependence that would be worth a look at. I don't know what that means, Tony. Should I look up some of these search terms? Would you be open to coming to Winnipeg? Sure. When am I allowed to travel again? As a member of the unvaxxed, disgusting killers of people. Johan Harry says, the difference between Johan Harry. Johan Harry. Isn't that the name of a journalist? That's the journalist who came up with the term John Values, right? Difference between covert narc and borderline. Oh, do you people realise it's nearly midnight and you're asking me hard academic questions like that? Go on. The difference between a covert narcissist and a borderline. Possible mum with BPD. Me becoming crazy making. I'm going to opt out of this question because I'll answer this question, but not here. I'll do a video on this. and I'll give my opinion to date on BPD, why it's a misdiagnosis and how we should be diagnosing instead. I'm not a clinician, I'm not a psychotherapist. I have a pretty good understanding of the subject, and I'm going to put forward my hypothesis, and I think it would be useful. I really do, and I'll do that in a separate video. So is that a good compromise, mate? I'll do that within the next few days. Question: will you do another 30-day challenge soon? No, it was a one-off. Okay. Ziva says, thank God you are here, not in Africa. How come you are listening? Almost obeying Sam so much. Well, as you just said, I didn't. I wish I had. Why do I listen to Sam? Because he's one of the most intelligent people I know, and he has my best intentions at heart. Oh, that's going to upset people in the comments. That's really going to confuse people. Don't worry about it. Just don't. If that makes you go, "Hey, how can that be right if he's an ass?" Just don't worry about it. It's not your life. You don't need to worry. It's mine. Don't worry about it. Any plans for coming to Sweden for some awesome seminariums? I didn't have Johan, but why not reconnect with my Nordic brothers and sisters in the land beyond the wall? Yeah, Sweden would be a good place to do something. Yeah, I might look at doing something like that this year. Frankie Mack says, can you please marry? No, listen. I am not one of these hyper-intelligent brain boxers, but I'm not a stupid man. Why would I get married? Why? Get married? No. You get married. Don't you think it's romantic? A contract, a legally binding contract for life. I've been in multiple contracts in business. I don't do lifelong contracts with anyone or lifelong partnerships. I fucking hate partnerships in business. Why would I like it in my personal life? A contract. Isn't it romantic? No, it's not romantic. It's a government mandated contract. And if I don't adhere to it, I'm forced to give away resources that I've worked for. No, I'll get married. I'm not a knight. And I don't know any noble women. And I don't have land. I'm not a member of the upper classes, not a member of gentry. So why should I get married? It's daft. Sorry, Frankie. I was riffing there. Can you please marry? No. A cover. What? NPD woman who is a published scientist, detective. What is this? Fan fiction? What? Why do you want me to do that? This is weirdly specific. Who is a published scientist detective, okay, who specializes in child interviews. Then catch her out and then get her to have you falsely arrested and charged. I don't know what this is about. My answer is no. Caroline Astle says, I live in West Kirby. The way they have made car park by the concourse card only is criminal. Why? Well, you're listening to the same rain that I am in Oilig. Okay, so they made it all card only. Then the car park in Hesbull's is the same, and the other car park that's by the front in West Kirby is the same. I can live with that. Why are they so slow? They're the slowest card readers in the world. The only slower card reader that you can find in the world is the one that lets you into the Mersey Tunnel. Swipe it. Then you have to wait 15 seconds. Why they couldn't just pay for decent anyway? Anyway, these are whittle problems for whittle people. Why is it like this? How do you distinguish between malignant optimism and running away from your own shadow? I don't. I wouldn't make that distinction. Why would malignant optimism be running away from your own shadow? Hang on. We catch up with you there, Chris. You're in a place in your head, you followed, you're on a tree, and you've gone down the trunk, you've gone up the trunk, down the branch, onto a sub branch, and now you're on a twig, and you're in some place, and you're like, yeah, this makes sense. But I'm not there with you, but I can get there. Give us a second. So you're saying it's so similar to run away from your shadow and to be a malignant optimist. And I'm saying, is it? So you're saying it's obviously similar that you're a malignant optimist and you're running away from your own shadow. How do I stop it? And then I'm going, I don't see how it's the same. A malignant optimist and running away from your own shadow. I mean, what is running away from your own shadow? What does that mean? How do you run away? Imagine, that'd be quite funny. It's like a Charlie Chaplin thing, isn't it? Like a guy running away from his own shadow. How can you even do that? Stop running away from your own shadow. It's not an expression I would use, that. I'm sorry, mate. It is a bit late here. I actually don't see the correlation between the two, so I find that question impossible to answer. I do apologise. To me, they're not. It's the again. There was a previous question like this. These are very, very different concepts. So I don't see the. You've got an equivalency here that I can't quite get to. If we said like it's a person who'd failed to integrate the shadow, could that contribute to malignant optimism, which is a kind of denial of reality? And I'll go, yeah, it could, because a person who's failed to integrate their own shadow would consistently then be able to show up as a codependent, and a codependent is highly skilled at denying the evidence that they see with their own eyes. I'd have to find another way to the branch that you're on there, Chris. Sorry, mate. I can't give you a nice clean answer with that. But I think I see where you're going. Peace Shepherding says, how to go forward? My family members are violent, using, or their adult kids don't want to count my life because it equals facing their own abuse too. How to go forward? My family members are violent, using, or their adult kids don't want to count my life. Who's adult kids? Your family members. If your family members have adult kids, why don't you just call them nephews and nieces? I don't understand that. Facing their own abuse, or using, comma, or family members are violent. They don't want to count my life. What does that mean? Because it's the same as facing their own abuse. Family and social services, my key motivators. Age now. I'm sorry, peace. It might just be me. It is a bit late here. I don't know what that means. That is like fucking Egyptian hieroglyphics to me. I can see the theme, and I can see some of the factors, but I don't understand what their adult kids means. Instead of you just saying like my nieces and nephews, I don't, and they the adult children, they don't want to count my life. I don't know what that means. I understand because it equals facing their own abuse. Got that. Family and social service are my key motivators, but you just said your family members are violent. No, I don't get that. Sorry, peace. I think if I tried to answer that, I'd probably butcher it and send you in the wrong direction. So I'm probably better off not answering that. I would take one more question, and then that'll be it. Question, Richard: when will you and Sam do the individuation video? We haven't scheduled anything as yet. I've been really, really busy with the 30-day challenge, and then I've come back and scheduled interviews and stuff to do. And I'm supposed to be doing some work with Sam in the Czech Republic. So we could do it then. I actually spoke to a guy who runs a studio in Prague. I could possibly do it when I see Sam in Czech. Or maybe I could do it online next week. Don't know. You just have to be patient. Busy. But it will be soon, because I want the answers as well. Nos the nom day. Do you agree that codependency is on a spectrum and not a concrete universal thing? Well, all of these concepts in psychology they're all models. They're all a framework. They're all social constructs, and people define it in different ways, which proves it's a social construct. So the way I've defined echo codependency is different in important ways from the way other people would define codependency. And absolutely, there's everything is on a spectrum. Like you say, I'm anxious. That's on a spectrum. If I'm horny, that's on a spectrum. All of human experiences is on a spectrum. So it's definitely not binary. Like you're codependent, you're not. Sometimes 90% of the time, very, very frequently, you'll see that people are extremely codependent in certain situations. And then in other situations, they can be absolutely fine. So they're not codependent all the time. They're not codependent at work or with their friends, for example. But they will be extremely codependent in their intimate relationships. So yeah, it's a spectrum, and it can be context specific as well. Like D. Opa. Codependent on this, doing iPhone. Have you, Missy says, have you figured out that you are a HSP and that's why you're so grouchy? I don't really know what to say about the HSP thing. I'm not saying that it doesn't point to a phenomena in people that is useful. I do get a bit. I'm a bit cautious. I'm a bit hesitant with the sheer number of terms now that are coming through in psychology. And I know that some of them are redundant. I don't know that we need to say this person is a highly sensitive person, and that's what they are. That's the category for the person. I'm going to say something slightly pompous now, which it's not my side of psychology, to be honest with you. It's not very scientific. It's not very scientific. And you know me, I'm not there going like, it has to be science. I'm not a behavioral psychologist. Like, it has to be science or I don't want to hear it. If we're talking spectrums, imagine, let's create a spectrum. And this isn't how it works, but let's pretend you have a spectrum where you've got things that are scientifically rigorous. And this is a spectrum in psychology that we're pretending. Highly scientifically rigorous. Like, if I can't see it, or if a rat in a maze won't do it, I don't believe it. I'm not having that. Right the way through to a sort of type of psychology that becomes like almost new age journalism. Are you familiar with the type of stuff I'm talking about, where it's really open and it's vague and it's airy fairy, and it's like, if this person identifies this way, then that's just like, I don't think that's useful. And what worries me about being at this end of the spectrum, which the HSP thing, I'm like, I can't get my hands around. What does that really mean? And can you show me that it's not context specific? The way I was trained with to appreciate personality disorder was, not only was it maladaptive, meaning it hurts the person who has it, but it's personal. permanent and pervasive. So it can't be context specific. It needs to exist across context. It needs to exist across time. It needs to be in the person. And it needs to permeate the totality of their being. So you say, well, that person's a highly sensitive person. I need to know that they're highly sensitive across time. And I mean, what does that, highly sensitive, what does that mean? So I don't submit to that. I don't submit to that. I barely submit to the introvert extrovert definition. Very, very, just about. I'll just about go for that, but even that, I'm a bit like not really sure what we're talking about here. So I don't want to offend people who identify as being HSP. I say that's fine, and if it's useful and it helps you organise your life and apply discipline in your life so you're enjoying yourself more, that's great. I'm not particularly into it. And then to your last point, I'm actually not grouchy. I just fucking hate doing this. I really, really, really don't like this anymore. And I resent it. Why? It's if you followed my philosophy channel, which I did quite a few videos on last year, you'll realise that I have a video on this channel that I've not released yet. I really think psychology has a problem, and I think like the very notion of psychology is a problem. And so when I am compelled, and like tonight I've been compelled to do this by someone, and they were right to compel me to do this, or I'm compelled to do things I don't want to do, or that I think are particularly useful, and I'm kind of like, ugh, don't want to do this. But actually, in my personal life, of all the people I know, and if you can speak to my mates, like especially from my age, I'm the happiest. High energy, happy, cheerful, silly, playful. But then this, I don't know what it. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll release the video on psychology. I really have a problem with this Spartan Life Coach. I don't mind doing the philosophy stuff. If you want to talk business, we'll talk business. If you specifically want to talk about CPTSD, I don't mind that. But the general psychology stuff, I don't know whether I want to get into it now. I'll tell you what, let's very briefly touch on this, and then I'll finish. The problem. It's too late for me to get deep into it, but I don't like what psychology has done to the world, and I don't like the way people have absorbed psychology. The way that you just have like, oh, you're an HSP, so you were joking. I know that you were joking. I know it's a joke, but I know that you know that people write stuff like this online and they're not joking. They'll be like, oh, so you're an INFJ. I'm like, this isn't. It starts to smack of almost like a cult-like mentality. I shared this story before. I just went out tonight in did my boxing this morning, and then I went dancing tonight. So I'm quite happy. And I went out. It was a Thursday night in Liverpool, but the particular location I went to in Liverpool, it's called Revolution de Cuba. 2 years ago, I went to a dance class there, and somebody recognised me at the dance class, a woman, and she came over to me, and she went, I'm at a fucking dance class, and she goes, have you figured out who the narcissist is yet? Do you feel that? Do you dig it? I was like, what? Why would you say that to me? Like, what do you mean? It's not a murder mystery tour. This isn't a hobby. This isn't a game. And there's something cheap about all this now, I think. And I don't blame culture for hijacking psychology. what I do is I look at psychology and I look at its roots, and I'm like, no, it was always cheap. It was always, these cheaply applied categories and labels have always been extremely questionable. And of course, over time, people absorb them. So I know you're joking, Missy, when you said, have you figured out that you're an HSP? To me, that's, and you're joking, but you know that other people say shit like that online, or they say it to each other in real life. And it's like, tag, you're it, and I figured you out because you're an INFJ and a Taurus, and I'm just like, ugh, shut up. Shut up. You don't even know what you're talking about. You've never read a research paper. You don't have a degree in psychology. You've never read a psychology book cover to cover. You read it on Psychology Today at best, and probably you got it from like a woman's interest magazine. It was probably a Cosmo article or an article in New York Times, not even from Psychology Today, where they tell you how long it's going to take to read an article before you read the fucking thing, because that's how scientific they are. This article can be read in 6 minutes. Oh, I read it then. And there's some fucking guff on Psychology Today. There is some shite on Psychology Today. Science, though, it's real science. So, where was I going with that? Yeah, I kind of hate this now. I kind of hate this now because it's like a snake eating its own tail. There's nothing I can say here in the confines of Spartan Life Coach, because you have to talk about psychology here, that can't be reabsorbed, cheapened, and turned into some sort of a silly game of dress up or a parlor game. I hope that made sense. Like that anecdote that's a true story. That really happened to me. Somebody saw me, recognized me from this, and her frame was to come up to me sideways. Have you figured out who the narcissist? And I'm like, yeah, because that's what I do. I go to a place and I figure out. And she was joking as well. But she's also not joking, because I know that this is a thing that people do online. I'm a witch hunter for narcissists. I'm an empath, and I can feel, yeah, my narc radar. My husband was so abusive. He left me with a permanent narc radar in my pineal gland. I'm like, would you shut the fuck up and get a job? Not you, Missy. People who you're ironically satirizing with your comments. They are, but there's people out there like that. It's like these people who have an Instagram profile and they'll say, I'm a Scorpio and I'm ENTP. And you just think, oh, are we so desperate for an identity now? It's not. You've got people who are proud of their personality disorders. You'll see people on YouTube attacking me for saying borderlines aren't very nice. And they'll be like, that's discriminatory and stigmatizing. I'm like, it's in the cluster B of the DSM. That's not the cluster of nice, cooperative, friendly people. You shouldn't be proud of having a personality disorder and defensive when somebody tells you it's maladaptive and harmful to you and the people around you. That's the definition. The stigmatization and the criticism is written into the diagnosis. You can't be like, I want to tell people that I'm NPD, but I don't want them to tell me that NPDs are mean. Seriously. And so in all honesty, and I mean, I don't hate talking to people. I don't hate teaching people. I don't hate guiding people. I still love all that. But the Spartan Life Coach and the whole psychology thing, I have very, very serious doubts about whether net psychology did more harm than good. My humble opinion, what I'd like to see happen is psychology regress historically, and to split into neurobiology and endocrinology and philosophy. And this middle ground, there's so much pish that can be developed in this middle ground. Do you know what I mean? I think that this will happen spontaneously in the next 20 years. The way we do psychology now will be seen as like a quaint bizarre artifact of history. It just won't work this way anymore, because the technology will be there to say to you, oh, you're depressed. Oh no, actually what it is you have a hormonal issue or an allergy, or it will be within the realms, because neurobiology is already vectored in to psychology. And I think it will just become more scientific, and it would be such a relief. We'll be able to trace more, we'll be able to observe more, we'll be able to treat things much more specifically. Right now, it's borderline quackery psychology, and that's not my opinion. There's proper people with PhDs who have released research papers saying the same thing. One came out of the University of Liverpool just 2 years ago in 2019, and it said if you looked specifically, to be fair, they said specifically psychiatry, but they said if you gave an analysis of psychiatry and you held it to the same critical standards of everything else in medicine and everything else in science, it is 90% quackery. Which, if you understand the presuppositions, makes perfect sense. Of course it is. Of course it is. Like, if I say to you, you're a highly sensitive person, or you're a very lowly sensitive person, you can't even say no, I'm not, because it's my subjective opinion. So whoever has the more letters after their name, if I have a PhD and you don't, you're fucked, because it's my opinion. You're a lowly sensitive person, or a highly sensitive person, or a medially sensitive person. Based on what? Well, based on my observations, and I'm the one with the PhD, so fuck you. You could do that in philosophy. You can't do that in science. You can't do that and claim it's a science. That's crazy. It's completely crazy. And people, I'm sure in the comments, will be like, do you really think the net effect was that it's not been good? And I'm like, I have serious doubts. Why? Because if we didn't have psychology to help people with their personal and emotional problems, and obviously the science wasn't there to be like, well, it'll be endocrinology and neurobiology that covers this, it would have remained the realm of philosophy, spirituality, and religion. And I actually think now philosophy, spirituality, and religion are faster, more profound, longer lasting, more cohesive remedies for mainstream psychological problems. If you have a TBI, or a mutation, or okay, all right, fine, that's neurobiology then, isn't it? But if it's like, oh, I'm having an existential crisis and it makes me feel anxious, or I'm still in love with my ex-boyfriend and I can't let go, these are things that can be very effectively covered with philosophy, spirituality, and certain elements of religion. 100%. And philosophy, as I just said, philosophy can make assertions like that. Spirituality and religion can make assertions like that. But psychology just can't, because it's simultaneously empowered and hobbled by science and scientism. Should stop there, shouldn't I? Yeah. Highly sensitive person. What the fuck does that mean? Hey, I tell you what, would you do me a favour, folks? If you're of a mind to it and you're feeling a bit cheeky and you're feeling a bit creative, could you make up some psychological labels for me and just write them in the comments? And just be like, Richard, it's clear that you have, and then just make up some bullshit, but make it sound like it could be real. Because I'm going to go to sleep now, and I'll wake up in 8 hours and I'll read them, and it'll give me something funny to read in the morning. I'd really appreciate that. If you've got this far in the video, could you remotely diagnose me with something that you made up that sounds legitimate and put it in the comments? That would be a laugh. Ladies and gents, thank you very much for your time and your attention. Remember, the world is a beautiful place. Approach it with reverence. Approach the people around you with reverence. Approach your own being with reverence, and all will be well. Good night.